Okay, great. Well, yeah, welcome everyone to our virtual event. Very excited. We're going to be discussing how to align data and AI governance for trustworthy AI data. Basically, just a couple of housekeeping rules. So please feel free to ask questions. We do have a Q&A tool, so you can kind of put your questions in there. We'll do our best to answer those live. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end as well to pick those up. We also have a chat box so you can introduce yourself, chat amongst yourselves. There's quite a number of people here, from various walks of life. So please feel free to introduce yourself and ask questions. And this session is being recorded, so it will be available on demand, so you can rewatch it or share it with your colleagues as well. And then before I jump in, I want to kind of introduce myself and the panel of governance experts that we have here. So myself, I lead our solution partner motion here at Anomalo. So this makes me very excited about this topic and the group of people that we've got here as well today. So it's a really kind of great panel that we have. But just a little bit about Anomalo, if you haven't heard of us, we're really revolutionizing how enterprises approach data quality. Instead of relying on rules, we don't really believe in rules or that manual technique. We use AI to automatically detect issues and scale, really reducing the effort and ensuring that your quality inputs feed trusted data and your entire data estate as well. And that's why we're here today about this talk as well. So yeah, let me introduce some of our esteemed VIPs today. So first off, our kind of governance expert, the OG of data governance, practice leader at Lovelytics, as he likes to be known, where he really is helping organizations across many industries like utilities, healthcare, media, strengthen their data management and their strategy foundations. So yeah, I want to introduce Eric Folzik, and hopefully I got that right, Eric.
You did. Thanks, Daniel. And I still chuckle at the OG reference, but I'll try to live up to it. No, welcome everybody. Good morning, everybody. As Daniel mentioned, I'm Eric Falsick. I'm the data governance practice leader for Lovelytics. We are the largest pure play Databricks partner out there in North America and in the world. We have about 500 professionals spread out both between North America and Latin America, and very excited to be here this morning.
Thank you, Eric. And then next, we're really excited to have the lead data governance specialist and solution architect for healthcare and life sciences from Databricks, working with hundreds of organizations and really shaping how their governance and discovery approaches are kind of being built out. So yeah, I really want to welcome Douglas Moore.
Yeah, nice to see everyone this morning. Nice to be working with our distinguished representatives from our partners here at Databricks, the unified data and AI platform. I'm the data governance lead, specialist solutions architect across all of our healthcare and life sciences here in America.
Thank you, Douglas. And then returning for another webinar with us, so a glutton for punishment there. Really wanted to, really kind of big pleasure to introduce Director of Data and AI Strategy at Atlan, one of our esteemed partners, where he advises enterprise data leaders how to kind of shape, their motion as well, and is shaping Atlan's go-to-market strategy as well. So yeah, thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. It's good to be back. It's good to see some familiar faces as well. So Austin Cron's leading data and AI strategy. So I get the opportunity to work with some of our largest customers here at Atlan and partner with them directly on building their governance strategy, their data strategy, and kind of maturing on this journey towards AI, both from a development standpoint and then obviously a governance side as well. So happy to be here and represent Atlan. We're trying to build this context layer on top of all of the information across your data state. So excited to talk more with this group.
Yeah, excited to learn more. So yeah, let's kick things off. So we've got a few kind of panel discussion questions that we're going to run through, but we're also going to make this interactive. So you will see some poll questions. So please feel free to vote on those, and you'll actually get to see what you and your kind of colleagues are seeing in the industry and maybe pain points that you're feeling. So you will see these poll questions coming up as well. So to kind of kick things off, first kind of question here. How do you define the relationship between traditional data governance and emerging AI governance? Eric, I'm going to point this one to you because it kind of feels like it fits in your wheelhouse, but everyone else, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So it's very interesting because the one of the forerunners to AI governance is what's the position of your data? Is it available? What's the quality of the data that would be feeding into these models? Because if the quality of the data is not there, then what's going to come out of the models will obviously be suspect to begin with. So to enhance things like explainability and the ability to understand how AI is performing, you have to be really tight on your data quality. So if you're talking about traditional data governance, we still have to do the fundamentals. We still have to manage our metadata appropriately. We still have to manage our data quality. We still have to manage our master data. And with the understanding that all those things are going to be feeding into what AI governance looks like. I think the biggest difference between the two concepts is that when we do traditional data governance, we talk a lot about the critical data element. We kind of focus on that. That becomes the atomic piece, if you will, that we leverage to effectively govern, effectively manage the data assets that are in front of us. On the AI governance side, I think it's more of the use case. So how do we look at the use case? How do we evaluate the use case appropriately, not just for its potential business value, but also for what the data quality and what the data opportunity is within each of those. But we also need to look at things like ethics and legal positioning and all those things that make people very uncomfortable when they start stepping into the AI realm. So it leverages the concepts that we use within data governance and it takes it to a whole new level. That's why I think it's very important that you can't shirk your responsibilities on the data governance side once you're moving into the AI world. You leverage what you've done. And if you don't feel like you've done enough good work on your data governance side, you have to shore up that before you move forward with your AI governance.
No, that's great. And Austin, I'll probably look to you because I know you're again kind of really in the governance world. What are you seeing, and if there's anything you want to add to what Eric mentioned there in terms of your clients once they're in Databricks, in terms of kind of that governance world.
Yeah. I think we have the perfect group for this conversation too, because we have a little bit of data quality. We kind of have the data discoverability. We have the platform that everything's going to sit on and have the work done. And then Eric, I think the piece that ties it all together that we're all probably focused on is the people and process side of all this. And I know we'll talk about this a bit more, but I do think, trusting the information requires not just the ability to find what you currently have out there, but then understand, is it of the quality that we need for building these AI models? And then ultimately, do we have the ability to execute and develop these models? And then lastly, what is our adoption strategy? So I think to Eric's point, this is just building on top of a foundation that you really need to double down on. And I was trying to think of a good analogy before the webinar, and it is close to Thanksgiving, and I feel like AI is, you need to clean your house, but just day in and day out, you don't think about it that much because things are fine. But then a holiday comes up, we'll call that holiday AI, and now everyone's coming over. Right. And so now it's like, oh, geez, this is the actual shot. We need to go and clean up our house. And you start to notice little things, and there's a lot more problems than you thought of. And it's like, if we would have just kept up the house, all these holidays wouldn't be a big deal. So I don't know, maybe AI is that kind of impending holiday that's coming up that's forcing us to, get everything together from a foundational standpoint so we can actually enjoy the day. But maybe I'll build on that. And by the end of it, people will be sick of that analogy. So but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Now, and I know me and Eric have been speaking to many customers, and a few of them have just said, I'm just not ready for AI. Everyone's saying I need to do AI, but I'm not ready. And like you said, we've had quite a number of C-suite executive kind of touch on that. Douglas, I don't know if there's anything you want to add before we move on to the poll question.
Well, a lot of these, like the data quality, I would add lineage and other trust signals, and having that available in the interface experience for the creators and even the consumers of the data. I think this is critical to understanding if I can trust this piece of data. Did I land on the right table that's used day in, day out for those executive reports, or did I land on some stale copy of the data? So, it's important to have a lot of trust signals, not just data quality, but many more to help users understand what they're getting into, what they're using.
Yeah, no, I think trust is the big thing that we're hearing, and hey, there we go. Oh, interesting. So it seems obviously data quality and actually Douglas, as you mentioned, lineage and full transparency, so trust. So those two seem to be neck and neck on that one. So great first poll question. Okay, moving on to the next one. How are you seeing organizations execute on data and AI governance? And I think, again, Austin mentioned we're hearing a lot about this. Everybody wants the turkey. Are they converging or are they still being treated separately? I think this would be a good one for you, Douglas, to maybe kick things off.
Yeah, thanks. So in my role, I get called in by account teams to talk to their customers about best practices, what are others doing in the industry. And with over 200 accounts in HLS, part part of that job is actually learning from each of the customers. One observation there is that it's often very much the status quo is separate. I can think of one customer with a data mesh strategy. Each node actually has 6 workspaces. A workspace within the Databricks platform is a unit of collaboration.
Mhm.
So in that particular organization, they are separated. There are other organizations where it's, your dev, test, prod. And that, think about that ITIL. That goes back way back to ITIL. Um, Customers struggle with where to build those AI models. ITIL says, well, you can't log into prod and do anything there. You can only connect BI tools there. But if anything, AI needs real data. It's almost impossible to reproduce those models with synthetic data.
Mhm.
So this is the struggle customers still going through even today in 2025 is figuring out and sorting through all these rules of the past and how to adapt going forward.
No, that's great. And I think just kind of adding to that, maybe Austin, what challenges do you see organizations facing when they're trying to extend data governance to AI? I know, again, a hot topic.
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations are kind of figuring it out as they go, like building the plane as they fly it. And part of that is because I think regulations and kind of the compliance space drive a lot of how organizations then adapt to things internally. And with AI, one of my customers, I think, phrased it best is that a lot of the regulations that come out are sufficiently vague, meaning it's some general direction and guidelines. There's some specifics, but for the most part, building something for your organization is going to be up to you. And that means you have to be ready to pivot tomorrow. And so building a strategy or taking an approach that answers maybe the fundamentals and gets you up and running and allows you to develop things in a safe way today, but also be able to adapt for tomorrow is really challenging. And so you do have to kind of take this maybe beginner's mindset of, what are we going to do on the AI front? But then on the flip side of that, the best way to be prepared to pivot is what we were talking about in the first question, which is how do you have a solid foundation? Because the number one question that's going to come up is not necessarily, well, which foundational model did you use? That might be important, but it's pretty easily answerable. It's going to be what data did you use to then feed into that to then get these answers and responses, and that's going to come either from your consumers or it's going to come from regulators and third parties. And so, yeah, I think being flexible is something I'm seeing customers kind of struggle with because they want a lot of answers, and you kind of have to give some general guidelines of how to build these guardrails really that people can play within.
And Eric, I'm going to point to you because I know that's one. How are you helping your customers be flexible and maybe change that mindset? That feels like a big challenge. And as Austin mentioned there, you have these kind of guidelines that are not real guidelines. They're very fluid. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything you like. How are you helping your clients in that area?
Austin mentioned the word of the day, which I think is something that you really need to take from this webinar, and it's something that I'm preaching a lot, is that we need to create the guardrails. So creation of the guardrails is incredibly important because the desire to move as quickly as possible is going to continue to accelerate. And we have to lay down these guardrails to say, okay, anything in between the guardrails we're fine with, but once you step outside of the guardrails, then we begin to have problems. And it's very, very important that, old school data governance where we had a lot of manual processes is simply not going to answer the bell anymore. So we have to do things in a much more intelligent fashion. Again, laying down the guardrails so that anything outside of that we're controlling and we're making sure is unacceptable. But everything inside of that we're going to be cool with. And the same thing needs to be in play when we're talking about our AI strategies. We're going to create the right amount of control to make sure that we're staying within our legal and ethical boundaries, that we have explainability at the forefront of what we're doing. And that makes sure that we're staying within the guardrails, but we do not want to slow organizations down. The last thing we want to be a part of is, okay, the governance team, we're the team of no, we're stopping everything, we're an impediment to progress. We don't want to be that. So how do we manage it that way? How do we manage it properly that way? How do we lay down those key guardrails so that organizations still see the speed, the pace that they want to that they really want to execute at, but at the same time, we're not getting in their way. We're not causing them problems as long as they're staying inside of the boundaries that we set for them.
No, that's great, and yeah, I think you both kind of nailed it there in terms of the guidelines and just the preparation. A lot of work to be done. We'll move on to our next poll question. So, how confident are you in the trustworthiness of the data feeding your AI systems? It'll be interesting to see how many people are very confident. I'll give that a couple more seconds.
Daniel, I'm surprised. Maybe at some point one of us will have to bring up that no one responded to the last poll saying that the
Yeah.
actual AI model risk is most pressing. I don't know if that's an indication of what's more challenging or maturity. Probably a mixture of both, but kind of see where people are at on that.
No, that's a great point because I thought the exact same thing when I saw the poll results, and I thought, wow, that really shows where the audience feels they are, that they haven't thought yet about the AI model part of all this. They're still worried about the data foundation that's moving into it.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing as well ourselves is the getting the pipes going in and the data quality ready and building that foundation. All right. I think we should have the results on this one now. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I think I would have been surprised if there was a number of people that are being very confident. But yeah, interesting that not many people are confident in the kind of trustworthiness of the data. So yeah, data governance and data quality seems to be still a very big topic of kind of and foundation building as well. So yeah, exciting stuff. All right. Moving on to the next question. Why is it critical for organizations to align data and AI governance rather than treat them separately? I think Austin, that'd be a good one for you.
Yeah, I think first is the acknowledgement that they're not separate. They if you're treating them separately, I think there's going to be some issues as you develop and try to deploy. And I think maybe the reason it might feel separate is because we've been trying to push data quality for decades, really, right? I mean, it was a challenge in the BI era. It was a challenge to do machine learning, and now it's a challenge to build with AI, generative AI, and foundational models. So this challenge has kind of plagued us for a long time. I think AI might be a driver to refocus on these problems. Uh, but maybe it doesn't feel that way, and this is building off of that first poll question of where people are on this journey and this maybe maturity curve, which is when you do something in a development environment on a small scale, things may test very nicely, right? We can, get a very small subset of our actual data. We have a very hyper-focused use case that narrows the scope of what we're trying to achieve. And then the real challenge comes whenever we actually expose that to what the enterprise information might actually look like and the amount of consumers that will actually interact with that system, right? And now when we're getting questions submitted to our AI models that weren't part of our development and testing process, we're now needing to connect to data at scale, live data that's constantly updating and refreshing, right? And so I think when you treat them separately, or maybe you just focus on the AI development piece, things look great in that little bubble, but it does become quite challenging when then you go to move to production and a different level of scale. And so that's when you start to realize that, okay, these things.
And yeah, Eric, from your point, what do you think is going to be a big challenge that you're seeing from these?
What's going to be odd is I think we're going to see probably if I have to make a prediction here, I'm gonna guess that we're going to see cultural and leadership resistance being at the front, but we'll see.
Hmm. All right, everyone finish clicking your answer and we should get the results.
I wish we could order these because I feel like it's all of the above, but one leads to the other.
So Eric, you made a good prediction there. So yeah, definitely cultural and leadership resistance seems to be the kind of the biggest barrier people are facing internally. Interestingly enough, zero on the technology gaps. So it seems the technology is there, but it's the it's the foundation, the execution, as you've been saying there. So it seems everybody's technology house is in order. So no, great, great results there.
Yeah, I don't know if the technology house is in order, but the tools are there, right? And the tools are firing. But what we're learning is there's still a lot more to just deploying this than just having the technology available. And that's where the crisis comes into play. That's where people are uncomfortable.
Yeah. And maybe I'm putting some data leaders and governance leaders on the spot, but I feel like if I viewed that as a checklist, I feel like the rationale is okay, we recognize that culture and leadership resistance is a big challenge. That's a very hard problem to solve. It's a company problem. All right, let's go to the next thing. And then they go to, okay, lack of visibility. All right, that's a better problem to solve. And then, okay, ownership, but we don't own it. We need other people to own it. And so unfortunately, a lot of times that conversation rolls back around to something that isn't really the problem, which is the technology. And so I think if you find yourself starting with the technology, and this is coming from someone who sells technology, if you find yourself starting with that, I think we need to reevaluate that list and see which one of those other bullets we can address first, because technology is only going to accelerate some of those things, and sometimes it can accelerate those problems.
Yeah, Douglas, anything from your side? Because again, huge adoption from Databricks, just from the technology side.
Yeah, I'm 100% on aligning your people and processes. There's tremendous amount of technology here. But I feel that you need to figure out what your data governance practice is or should be. What is your AI practice should be? Perhaps one of the best uses of the Gen AI is to log in there and create a plan. Use that to help you create a plan, circulate that throughout the organization. Start with that for AI. And then once you figure out some of those things, then figure out the tools and the configurations there.
That's great. Moving on, this probably is going to touch everybody here in terms of responsibility. So, what are the common misconceptions that you see around governance when organizations start their AI journey? Eric, I'll kind of kick off with you, but yeah, I know there's going to touch everybody on the panel here.
The biggest common misconception is that the business feels that they're ready and they want to go 100 miles an hour. Usually the technology teams feel like they're not ready and they're trying to put as many brakes and roadblocks in the way as possible. So now you have an issue where the business feels like they're not getting the service that they need from the technology teams. And now we have a big problem. The business feels like, hey, there's no reason why we shouldn't go. We're getting a lot of pressure from our C-suite. We're getting a lot of pressure from our leadership. And they want to be part of the AI party, and I understand that. They feel like they have great opportunity and they want to be able to explore it. The technology teams are probably given some short shrift to their data governance capabilities. They may have failed 3 or 4 times as far as establishing data governance. And probably if you're outside of the financial services realm, you probably haven't kept it going over time because you just ran out of budget, you ran out of patience, and you kind of given up on it. So now organizations are beginning to get religion very quickly. Oh gosh, now all those things that I thought we needed to do, but we didn't do, and now it's coming back to beat me up. So the biggest challenge is oh gosh, how do I service the business when I come to these needs?
Mm.
And I think that's a huge challenge. And then the other common misconception is that AI is going to change the world. So if I put a use case into motion, oh that the sun, the moon, the stars is going to happen, and they're realizing very quickly that it's not necessarily delivering the business value that they first believed. And there's probably a number of different reasons for that, but obviously we've talked about foundational data concerns as being one of the key problems, but also I tend to believe they haven't thought through these things and they haven't given it the right, thinking around how valuable the use case truly is. And they're just deploying it because maybe they're the loudest person in the room and it comes back and maybe it's not driving the success that they expected.
No, that's really interesting. And Austin, from a kind of what are you seeing from the catalog and governance perspective?
Well, I'm seeing the idea of catalog and governance change completely. I think in a traditional kind of just data and analytics world, catalog was just, let's put a bunch of metadata somewhere and maybe they can search for it and hopefully they can build a dashboard on top of it. Right. For a long time, Atlan has been talking about, what we don't want to just store a bunch of metadata. We want to activate this back into business processes. So, if you're in dashboards, why not just have a browser extension that shows you, hey, here's who owns the dashboard, here's what it means, here's the key KPIs on the page, right? Really just put things back into the workflow of users. If you're an engineer and you're going through your development process, why not just put the impact analysis report directly into their development, when they make a pull request or go to push something, get the information there. So I think we continue to build on that. Now with AI, we have yet another accelerator where we're realizing, oh, the catalog wasn't just documentation for our metrics and our terms and our data dictionary. Now AI needs that context. So catalog and what Atlan is trying to be is more of this context layer to feed AI. Everyone's saying that, there's not enough context to give accurate talk to data use cases. We have customers that are working inside Databricks and they're building Genie rooms, and now they're using Atlan metadata to actually be a source of context to improve
Mm.
the experience, right? All of these talk to data, natural language query type use cases are benefiting from all that business knowledge that's now inside of, what used to just be a catalog and engineers may have looked at it as documentation. Now it is truly this context layer that is powering AI. So I think the misconception is it's only for data discoverability for traditional use cases. I think we've sort of blown the door wide open with that. And it's now occupying a much more, I think, critical stack if you want to succeed with AI. So I mean that's been some of the misconceptions that I might see.
Yeah, definitely saying I think traditionally the catalog wasn't seen as providing tangible results. It was a little bit more of a tick box. But now it's like you said, it's really driving, the business and the value and those tangible results. So I think a lot of those legacy catalogs are still in that kind of just tick box kind of criteria as well. Douglas, just from kind of your perspective, what are you seeing as some of the misconceptions, maybe, people in terms of their architecture within Databricks, roles and responsibilities, or just, yeah, any operational perspective that you've got?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Two things. One is something I do on the side is a medical imaging solution accelerator. And I get two types of customers come to me about that. One that want to build a well-governed data AI platform. The other has a business opportunity. They want to build a model in 3 to 5 months, right? So the first part of this response is, can is this even a feasible use case, from a business perspective? Do you have the data on hand, the expertise on hand, including data science skills? Can a human even work with that data? Can they, you know, can they make this? What do you expect out of the model? Do you expect human level performance out of the model? So do you need to work through that? Just some basic math, see if this is going to pay off for them, to develop it and roll it out. So that's it. And this goes to selecting the right use case and going through some due diligence up front. And then secondly, I want to get kind of towards the back end as you have a model or you're in developing a model. business needs to be involved in testing that model. They need to come up and even helping train that model. They need to come up with question answer pairs, both positive and negatives. They need like our platform has a valuation framework, but
Hmm.
the business users need to get out there and come up with those, and question answer pairs to help benchmark that model. And then that benchmark should run with each iteration of the model, the training and the tuning. And it's important for the business folks to be involved throughout this. And yeah, so let me leave it there for this question.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Douglas. Um, Moving on, in terms of maybe again related to those kind of misconceptions, what are some of the key challenges you're seeing in operationalizing governance frameworks across teams and tools? And Austin, I think you've touched on this a little bit throughout the talk, but yeah, just anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think I don't know the governance industry or whatever we want to call it. Like any textbook you read, any kind of presentation you attend, and I've done this. You present frameworks that are complete, and it's what the fully functioning, most robust version of a governance strategy and operating model might look like. And sometimes while we know there's a crawl, walk, run to that, it's not always articulated very well. And there is a crawl, walk, and run. As an organization, first and foremost, it's going to be helpful just to understand what data, what is out there, what information, what models are being used. And it may be just a tick faster than doing everything manually. We see this with Atlan. It's kind of our adoption strategies, just being able
Mhm.
to find things in an instant is helpful enough to then do other workflows, right? The walk version is going to be more automation, right? How can we apply things across that entire data state in one swoop? And then the run version is this kind of proactive, fully automated, almost invisible data governance or governance by design where things are just happening behind the scenes, those guardrails you don't even know that they're there, right, Eric? Like it's just that is our operating model. It's a well-governed operating model that leverages automation wherever possible. So I think maybe not a misconception, but as part of one of Eric's therapy sessions, just telling people like it is a journey, right? And you almost have to do one before the other. There's no way I could come to a customer and automate a workflow that doesn't exist, right? You have to have something on a whiteboard that says this is what we want to do. You have to have that, to Douglas's point, you have to have that plan that ChatGPT or Claude spit out to you. That's like, this is probably what you should do, right? And then do it the manual way, and then do it the faster but still manual way, and then do it the slightly automated way. And then it's like, well, we could just completely automate this, right? You kind of have to go through those progressions. And I think sometimes we're doing a disservice to governance leaders when we say like this is what a full-blown council looks like and this is what governance should be. And I think that's why everyone always says we're behind. It's a long-winded answer, but I king of analogies here. I saw on LinkedIn, I can't take credit for this and I do not know who posted it, I totally forget, but I love what they said about, we've been talking this whole time about data foundations. And everyone go on LinkedIn right now, and everyone is saying you can't do AI without good data, or you can't do, and I think we all agree from a blanket statement, that's true. But their take on it was saying you can't do AI without good data is like saying you're not going to the gym until you're in shape.
Mm.
Like sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad it is until you try it. So go to Eric, have a therapy session about how much you told the company we should have focused on data quality, but then take a breather and say, all right, I'm kind of getting what I wanted the whole time, which is the company now has to care about data quality and has to care about data discoverability if we want to do AI. So it is a win, but it can be frustrating when you're in the data space and you've been trying to say this entire time. So I'll end there.
Yeah, no, that's a great response and analogy there. And I think actually that moves on nicely to the last question, just like you said, how challenging this is. So MIT recently actually did a study and reported back that 95% of AI investments have yet to yield actually any return. And I think this is, maybe part of Eric's therapy sessions. I mean, how do you deal with that, Eric? In terms of when you're going to speak to these organizations where they maybe have already tried this and failed, and they're to Austin's point, you've got to do stuff to actually start getting some results, and caring about data quality. But a lot of them maybe are a little disheartened because of the results that they've had and the attempts that they've made. So yeah, what's your kind of take on that statement and research?
Yeah, I saw something recently that said that less than 10% of all AI kind of tests, if you will, or things that they've tried to put into production, less than 10% of them actually made it into production. So they went in, they went all in, they started testing these models out, and they realized that it wasn't delivering what they needed to, or they felt like they needed to do some serious course correction. And again, what are your fundamentals, right? What does the explainability look like? Have you really thought through what you're trying to do? Have you tested this thoroughly? Or have you trained your models appropriately? So there's so many things that go into how you define success. And I think because there's been so much pressure from top levels of the organization, right? Oh gosh, my CEO just read this article about how we're going to gain so much value from adding AI to this particular thing or that particular thing. Now let's put this into motion, guy or woman, and make this happen and make this make this really work for us. And I think it's interesting that we're now in this situation where we're trying to play extreme catch up, and because we're doing it in such a rapid fashion that these projects are ultimately failing. So, how do you make this better? All right, we have established some things that are making, trying to deliver expedited data, if you will, to these models. We've created new tooling around how you can improve data quality faster. We now have we have the ability to create data classification models using AI, and it's getting those data classification pieces into tools like Unity Catalog that much faster. We're doing automated data quality agents where if data quality monitoring finds a problem, we're crawling through the lineage. We're finding the root cause automatically. We're even defining what the code change should be. We're even defining what the trouble ticket should be. So we're trying to make things faster. We're trying to meet organizations halfway. And when I speak to organizations about that, they immediately sit up in their chair because, okay, that was one problem that we've had to deal with. Now I think I see an opportunity to solve it. So now let's go to these other things, which are going to be other problems that we need to solve in order to get to that place where we need to be. So I sound a bit like a broken record. Get your house in order, get your foundation straight, get your guardrails in place. I still think it holds here. And hopefully we could have this conversation a year from now where we're in a much better position, where many more of these use cases are actually making it to production and they're showing viability and they're delivering success.
And Douglas, maybe for you, just to kind of add on this, I mean, people are making huge investments in Databricks, really seeing the value out of that. What else maybe have you kind of seeing work, or you kind of hearing people talk about that they're doing around Databricks? And I'm sure we can have a separate podcast all around your kind of hobby that you mentioned there with medical imaging as well, but we can save that for another time.
Yeah, of course. And this is all about being more successful with your AI projects. Well, I did actually, it took 10 minutes or so, despite all the AIs I have available, to dig in to find that original article and look for the analysis. And, I frankly, it might be a 95% chance that title is actually clickbait. But that aside, there's some good things. It's about picking your use case,
Mhm.
and you can do it with intention. At some point you go with like, hey, we're a builder culture, do stuff with AI. We're going to change the organization. So these failed use cases, that's intentional. As long as the organization recognizes that experimenting, building, trying is not a failure, but learning, I think that's hugely important. If you look at a 10% failure, or sorry, 10% success rate, look at the chances our organizations had to succeed to be here today, starting back 10 years, right? We probably didn't even have a 10% chance to be here. So look at that 10%. I think during the learning, it's important that you learn, okay, well, here's some best practices before we often get customers come to us and say, hey, we vibe tested this app, this agent, or this set of agents, and it seems to work. Okay, we're going to be in production. Hopefully, leadership says, whoa, wait a second there. We got to be more thorough on this. We have to get to, the provenance of this. We have to test all the corner cases, so on and so forth. Our platforms help in this with creating LLM judges
Mhm.
that out of the box will test for safety and other aspects of it, whether you're using models running on Databricks or you're using our gateway. So again, there's like judges, there's agent evaluation framework. So again, these things help with the safety, help reduce the embarrassing moments, if you will, with AI. There's tracking and tracing of that with our ML flow. So there's a number of technical things built into platform to make it just much more easier to understand what's going on in your AI model. That said, if you pick the wrong use case to begin with, you're likely doomed from the start. So choose your use case with intention and decide that, and that article, one thing about the article I kind of like is a lot of the use cases go to, say, sales and marketing. And there's tons of startups, supporting sales and marketing and Salesforce itself. Pick use cases that are actually going to return money to you and have a good chance of, and where automation, let's say automating to 80% of the capacity of a human is still tremendously valuable. Set your expectations well. So those are some of the things I took away.
Yeah, and some really good points there, Douglas. And I think mentioning a safe place that people can fail productively and learn from those, and those kind of technology guardrails seem key as well. In terms of letting people test out and push the boundaries. But yes, having good expectations as well set there. So we'll go to our final poll question. So we'll kick this off on the screen. So which topic would you like to learn more about from the panel? We got a number here. So we talked a lot about AI-driven, data quality monitoring, practical governance. Then obviously we touched on platform and lineage capabilities. And then I know, Austin, we touched a lot on the catalog and metadata strategy and the value that that's producing as well. So yeah, would love to see what people are seeing as a hot topic. And then once we've finished that, we should be able to go to some of the questions from the audience. Got a number of good questions from the audience to cover.
Douglas, I was thinking more about that 95% stat too. And it's kind of like, depending on your mindset, I mean, hey, if I try 100 times and I end up with 5 models that change my business,
Yeah.
I'll try.
Yeah,
I'll try
that's a huge
100 more times.
success.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the clickbait part of that thought, Douglas is probably correct.
Well, the analysis of that article is like the body of the article didn't actually point back to the title. What was one failing called out? There were a few others. I think our teams might be actually delivering their own report from Databricks, so we'll see in a few weeks. What our teams and what our customers, polling our customers kind of had to say about their success with AI projects.
Hopefully we should have the responses. There we go. All right, so it seems practical governance isn't the hottest topic, but definitely AI-driven data quality monitoring, which we've been talking about, and catalog and metadata strategy. Eric, Austin, anything you want to add on those two results?
I think it's a sign of the times, right? Um, the desire to use AI to dig deeper into your data to perform functions that don't necessarily require a human, but can use machine learning to find the patterns, to find the gaps, to find things that your data quality rules may not necessarily find, are probably top of mind. And the ability to use these techniques it's very appealing and very interesting. So I could definitely see why that would probably be top of mind from our respondents.
Perfect. All right, we'll go on to some of the questions that we've got from the audience. We've got time for a couple of questions. So I can see we've got one question here. How do you see organizations leveraging AI itself to improve and scale governance on, let's say, Databricks? So like anomaly detection, policy suggestion, etc. I know we touched, Douglas, you touched a little bit on this in the last one, but yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I did mention LLM-based judges,
Mm-hmm.
and that's almost AI on AI quality, if you think about it. In terms of using AI, say, to detect sensitive data, I work in healthcare and life sciences. Our customers very important to them to protect personal health information there. We found, as an example of VLM, is very good and not too expensive for detecting sensitive data in medical images. Now, when we think of data quality, we often think of tabular data and ranges and domains and things like that. Our customers are keenly interested in detecting quality across unstructured data, images, PDFs, multi-structured data like HL7 and other capabilities. And we find surprisingly easy to apply LLM for those specialized use cases.
Eric, any perspective from your side?
I'm so glad Douglas brought up unstructured data because I think that's the new paradigm that we're going to need to embrace. So much organizational data is actually unstructured versus structured. And it does require that that we put some guardrails around our unstructured data to understand it and to be able to leverage it and utilize it as part of these AI models, just trying to consume that information. I find it humorous when people say their chatbot doesn't work because something happens and the wrong video gets served up to the person on the other end of the chatbot, or the wrong document or the wrong answer. And it's because we haven't done any sort of work as far as ensuring the data quality of our unstructured data assets. So I think that's the new paradigm. I think that's something that we have to study and we have to bring into our frameworks, and organizations need to understand this is going to be a key part of their solutioning moving forward.
I'm going to do a shameless plug here, but I know, Eric, you've been looking at our unstructured solution on Anomalo, so just kind of put a little plug in there about that. And then moving on, next question we got from the audience. What are some of the early indicators that your governance strategy is actually working? I know we talked about that. Austin, this kind of feels like one that probably is good for your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I recently asked Sherry from General Motors, who works with us, they're also a big Databricks customer. Are you doing more hunting or fishing kind of to get people to adopt this new data governance strategy? And she mentioned in the early days it was kind of like hunting, right? Going out and finding the use case, finding teams to work with, soliciting problem statements, and then acting on that. And now that she has more momentum, it's really just waiting. A lot of people are coming to her with challenges because they understand what her team's capable of and how it actually is going to enable them with either data analytics, machine learning, AI. I think all of those are actually being impacted, in particular at that customer. So I think an indicator of if it's actually working is, you have people showing up to the meetings where you're trying to get information from them. You have people coming to you with problem statements. And then maybe more on the technical side, you are progressing through that crawl, walk, run, where you go from not having anything to having an idea of what the system could look like to starting to have some type of technical foundation. And some of the things, just to continue on the General Motors use case, I mean, some of their governance workflows and initiatives are completely automated at this point, or have some human in the loop element, but they've progressed through some of that for different use cases. So both the people side and a technology side to keep an eye out for.
And Douglas, I know you mentioned kind of the importance of the use case, picking the right use case as well. So yeah, anything you want to add?
Yeah, with the data governance strategy, I when I talk to customers, sometimes they come to me and say, "What do you think about XYZ governance tool?" And that and Unity Catalog. And in terms of good data governance strategy, Austin, what you were saying, I think it is a struggle for that initial adoption, but then it starts to build upon the self. I find work across our customers has a lot to do with that product manager, that champion that you have within that count that is driving those processes, driving that change, that organizational change. And the way we measure a lot of success, if you will, in our features is as a platform as a service, software as a service, we collect anonymized metrics. So we can understand our monthly active users, our daily active users, and are people using these capabilities? And what does that adoption curve look like? And I would love to see more governance practices kind of measured or create measures for their success, and then measure that and report on that. How many users are using this tool? How many policies have been applied, over the last month, and so on and so forth, and really demonstrate adoption of that, but also, finding, building, and training those champions within the organization so that these practices come forth. And part of growing that adoption is actually training, and data literacy and these things. So all these things kind of tie together in terms of what I see is, determining if it's actually working or not.
Now that's a great final thought there, and we're coming up to time now. So yeah, just want to thank everyone for a great discussion. So thank you, Eric, Douglas, Austin. Really appreciate you joining us. I know we'll be doing more of these. If we didn't get to your questions, obviously apologies, but we will obviously respond to those. And please feel free to reach out as well. So you'll see a link available where you can reach out to obviously ask any follow-up questions, discussions, or even get a demonstration from from ourselves, Lovelytics, or from Atlan as well. And yeah, Douglas, thank you again for providing the kind of expertise on Databricks as well.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure working with y'all and our partners today. Y'all deliver the scale and the specificity our customers need to, on their data and AI journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for everyone joining. Like I said, there will be a recording sent of this that you can share and rewatch as well. So, and yeah, please reach out if there's any questions. This was a great topic, and I think very kind of adapt in terms of what people are seeing and feeling, and that foundational work that Eric and Douglas and Austin mentioned there is super important. And yeah, we're happy to help and discuss. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.